fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the indie film, The Peanut Butter Falcon. Now, I've actually been pretty excited for this film ever since I saw the first trailer a few months back. I thought the trailer looked great. Nice feel-good story, and just watching the trailer itself made me feel good watching it. So I was real excited to see this film. The film stars Shia LaBeouf, and I know he's been getting kind of a bad rep over the last few years, pretty much ever since the whole Transformers films came out. But I've actually always been a fan of Shia LaBeouf. I followed him ever since he was doing Even Stevens. Loved him in Disturbia, Eagle Eye. I mean, I've always really enjoyed Shia LaBeouf and most of the things he's done. But yeah, he hasn't really done much lately. And this year he's got this film, and then he's also got his own movie, Honey Boy, coming out later in the year, which is actually a story of his life, and he's going to play his father in the film. So I'm glad to see him kind of getting out there and back doing the films again. And this film also stars Dakota Johnson, who, outside of 50 Shades of Grey, I think she's a pretty solid actress. I loved her in Bad Times at El Royale. And everything else I've seen her in, she's been decent for the most part. So it's nice to see her trying to break away from the 50 Shades stigma. And then we also got, obviously, the main character of the story, Zach Gottsagen. He plays Zach. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the review and see what I thought of Peanut Butter Falcon. So the general plot of Peanut Butter Falcon is we have the main character, Zach, is a 22-year-old with Down syndrome, and he has this dream of becoming a professional wrestler. And he basically was abandoned by his family, and so he, by the state, has to stay at an old folks' home. He's the only person there who's not, old and dying. So he doesn't feel welcome there. He doesn't feel like that's his place, and he constantly keeps trying to break out because he wants to do something and aspire to do something better, and that is to become a professional wrestler. He watches the same videotapes day in, day out. His favorite wrestler is it's like Saltwater Redneck, I think is his name. It's played by Thomas Hayden Church. And that's his dream. Saltwater has a pro wrestling school, and Zach wants nothing more to do than to break out of the old folks' home and go and become a professional wrestler. So he does break out. In doing so, he meets up with Tyler, played by Shia LaBeouf. Tyler's got a kind of a traumatic backstory with him and his brother, and he tends to be a guy who does very stupid things out of anger, and has put him in quite a bind. So these two kind of run into each other and develop a bond as Tyler trusts and promises Zach to get him to the school. And then we got Dakota Johnson, who is Zach's not keeper, but she's in charge of keeping Zach safe in the old folks' home and keeping tabs on him. And so she's on the hunt to try to find him and bring him back to the old folks' home. So that's the general plot of Peanut Butter Falcon. Like I said, most of that's in the actual trailer itself, so no spoilers there. But let's go ahead and move into what works with this film. What actually works with Peanut Butter Falcon? A lot works in this film, but most importantly, the main two performances of the film, which goes to Shia LaBeouf and Zach Gottsagen. Shia LaBeouf does a great job in the film. I mean, is he a likable character? At least to start, no. He's a pretty bad guy, in a sense. Not in terms of, like, he is a, mean person, but he does some really stupid stuff. And in terms, criminal stuff. But he's a character, because obviously the way the movie forms it, is a character that you want to follow, a character you want to see the good in. And when he meets up with Zach, that is something that we start to get with the bond of him and that friendship. And Shia LaBeouf does a great job in his performance. It's nice to see him going out there and putting on a good performance again. And he's definitely a character that I wish we could have gotten more of. I wish we could have gotten more of a backstory of him. I mean, we did get backstory throughout the film, but maybe some scenes where he could have actually explained that backstory, because outside of just showing us flashback scenes, we never actually get him to open up, in a sense, in the film, and that's something that I kind of wish we would have gotten a little bit more of. But the big standout, and I think that's everyone's standout in this film, actually has to go to Zach Gottsigan, who plays Zach. Zach is a fantastic performance overall. Zach is the driving force of the film. Even throughout the entire film, before he meets up with Tyler, he's basically treated with kid gloves. No one thinks he can do anything for himself, and I mean, people think they have to dress him, they have to feed him, they have to talk for him. He can't make a single thought on his own, and you can tell that Zach is a character that even though he has this disability in terms of having Down syndrome, that it's not something that lets hold him back. He wants to be treated like everybody else. He thinks he's like everybody else, because he is. He's a regular human being. And just because he looks different doesn't mean he should be treated different, which is part of the bond that him and Tyler create, is that Tyler doesn't treat him any differently. Tyler treats him just like everybody else, and that's where the main bond between these two is formed, and that is also the driving force of this film, is this friendship and bond between Tyler and Zach. And it starts as just two guys who are just going down the same path, and then develops into a wonderful friendship throughout the film. And it's a friendship that I wish we could have. I mean, the movie clocks in right around an hour and a half, so it's not a long movie, but it's a movie that I would have been totally okay with another 30 more minutes of, because I loved watching these two on screen together, growing and becoming closer. And I would have loved to have seen more than what the movie actually gave us. But obviously the movie had a 30-minute timetable, and they stuck in it. And that's great. It's a great experience overall. I just wish we could have gotten more with them, which is not a bad thing. We got what we did, and it's fantastic from what we got to see, which is a good thing that we wanted to see more of it. I was not tired of seeing Zach and Tyler's relationship together. And then you got Dakota Johnson as Eleanor. She's solid in the film. She doesn't really get a whole lot to do probably until the last act. And in the last act, you can start to see the acting chops start to come in a little bit with her. But she does kind of get the short straw in the film overall. Could she use some more time on screen to develop the character a little bit more? Absolutely. Because we do start to see some of her characters start to come out. There's just not enough time in the film given to her to really develop that, except for a relationship potential with Tyler, which frankly isn't given enough time to fully develop. But the chemistry between all three of the main characters works really well. They all get along, and it helps move and push the flow of the story as well. I also liked Thomas Hayden Church's small cameo in the film as a saltwater redneck. Also, John Hawkes has a small part. Bruce Dern as well. They all do great in their smaller roles, but this is literally a film that's dedicated towards Shia LaBeouf and Zach Gottsigan, with Dakota Johnson kind of pulling up the rear. But yeah, the performances are great. The story is genuine. It's a feel-good story. You're going to be happy throughout. I just wish we got more of it. I wish it wasn't 90 minutes. I wish it could have gone to a full 2. Because I felt like there was so much more story that we could have gotten out of it, which I would not have said no to. But overall, I love the performances of the film. I love the story it told. I love the way it made me feel while watching it, all the way up to the end, and I wish we could have gotten more out of it. Now, what does not work with the film, there's not a whole lot that doesn't work. It's just that there's a lot of story that is left on the table. And that's just, like I said, it's 90 minutes long. That story could have gotten spread out more over a 2-hour timetable, or even 15 more minutes. Could that have been a negative to the film if they had done that? Probably. Maybe there was that film that they just cut it, and they felt that maybe it dragged the story or it dragged the film overall, so they removed it. But yeah, it's just, there's certain story elements of Tyler I wish we could have dug a little bit more deeper on. There's obviously story elements of Eleanor we could have probably dug more deeper on. I love the third act, but there's a particular moment that happens in the third act that just kind of, we see the beginning of it, and then it jumps ahead. I would have loved to have seen what actually happened in that moment. Obviously, that was a director's decision, so I can't knock it fully, but it's one of those decisions where it's like, I wish we could have seen that whole scene in full instead of just the beginning and only the beginning. And I would have, and like I said, that's just nitpicking. Like I said, I love this film. I thought it was a fantastic film overall. So everything that I'm saying right now is literally just wishes, things I wish we could have gotten, and not necessarily negatives of the film overall. So going into my overall thoughts, Peanut Butter Falcon is actually one of my favorite films of the year. Like I said, total feel-good story. If you guys have this in theaters around you, go out of your way to see it. If you guys are fans of Shia LaBeouf, Dakota Johnson, I feel like you guys are going to really enjoy this film overall. Zach Gottenson, he's a must-watch performer for this film. I think he puts on one of the best performances of the year for someone who has not really got to bust out into the spotlight, and this is his spotlight show. This is Zach's movie with Shia LaBeouf in tow, and I think they both do a fantastic job, and I could not recommend this film enough. If you want to just watch a film that's got some originality to it, but still kind of touches some of the similar beats we've seen in previous films prior, then I think you guys will like it overall. So because of that, I give Peanut Butter Falcon high recommendations to anyone that is, because it's an indie film, so it's not everywhere. But if it is in theaters near you, definitely go check this out, as this is one of my favorite films of the year so far. So as we go to the top 10 of 2019 so far, Peanut Butter Falcon ends up pretty high on my list. So going to the list right now, Toy Story 4 is still at the number 1 spot, with Avengers Endgame at number 3. Peanut Butter Falcon comes in at the number 3 spot, followed by Rocket Man and Spider-Man Far From Home at number 5, Booksmart at number 6, Us at 7, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum at number 8, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at number 9, Midsommar at 10, with Disney's The Lion King dropping out of the top 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and if you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button, but most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the channel, so that way you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on Sean's Movie Crusades. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, I will be posting my review of The Good Boys. And keep a lookout for more videos that pop up, more reviews. We're going to start doing some more shows with some of the rest of the Movie Crusaders. But be on the lookout for that. Of course, hitting that subscribe button, you guys will always be up to date with that, as well as following us with all the other social media outlets. And until I see you, until next time, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.